Hey there, today we are going in depth on a subject that might put a serious dent on your bank account. We are talking about shady practices and hidden red flags that may potentially rob you up to $1,000 every week. Can you afford losing this money? No, and you don't have to. There are a lot of reasons why the hard-earned dollars are slipping through your fingers. Probably you just don't know how to check the information, or you don't expect such a scam on the owner's end who you think is a friend of yours. And it's a big problem of a lot of owner-operators. A lot of them have fallen victim to these scams. And you know what? We are here to give you the knowledge you need to protect your money and keep it where it belongs, in your pocket. Let's start with the biggest fish first. Brokers. We are going to explore the subject that you know all too well. The tricks that brokers use to cash in an owner-operator. Now, there is a truckload of scams out there, but today I'm going to focus on just one of them. The detention time scam. Let's start with the biggest fish first. Brokers. We are going to explore the subject that you all know all too well. The tricks that the brokers use to cash in on owner-operators. Now, there is a truckload of scams out there, but today I'm going to focus on just one of them. The detention time scam. It's bad and it can ruin your day, your schedule, and your budget. But there is a pretty cool way to dodge this bullet, and we are going to share that information with you in this unit. So let's get moving. Without going into much detail, we'll point out the three main ones: no detention pay, fake detention time, and excessive detention time. No detention pay. Say a driver arrives at the shipper's or receiver's location to pick up or drop off goods, but sometimes they end up waiting there for hours. The worst part is that while they are waiting, they are not getting paid. No compensation for those lost hours. Why not? The broker just didn't include it in the rate con. Or what's even worse, the carrier got the detention fee money from the broker but pocketed it. Presently, the driver is extremely frustrated. Not only has their schedule been disrupted, but they are also being deprived of the rightful compensation for their detention. Fake detention time. The same thing can happen if the broker tells the driver that they would pay the detention fee and even include it in the rate con, but then they come up with a boatload of claims saying that the driver didn't meet the detention pay requirements, even if they did. And the broker is definitely not going to pay you because that was the plan all along. Excessive detention time. In another scenario, a trucker arrives at the delivery point and is ready to unload their precious cargo. But what happens next? They are all stuck, waiting and waiting and waiting. It's like the time goes into a super slow motion. The reason is that some brokers may intentionally book loads with the shippers or receivers, knowing for the excessive detention times. The driver doesn't see a single cent for that extra time they waste. It's like the slap in the face, leaving them without nothing to show for their hard work and patience. How to avoid falling a victim. Okay, we have the problem, but how do we fix it? Research. This is the first step in any situation because a little research never hurts anyone. So check the broker's reputation, review, and other carriers. Look for Google reviews and ask references. Yes, it's that simple. Google is free and it helps a lot. Google the address of the facility you have in the rate con and read the comments left by other truckers. Do your homework to stay out of trouble. Second, communication. Make sure to communicate with the broker regularly and ask the updates on the load. If they are unresponsive or vague, it could be a big red flag. Do you want to work with people who try to ghost you? We don't think so. Keep in mind that most facilities have a 2-hour window to load/unload a truck. After that, you can inform the broker that the detention time period has started and it needs to be paid. You can always confirm the check-in and unload time and back it up with a signed bill of lading. Documentation. Another no-brainer that is so easy to forget. Be sure to get all agreements and contracts in writing and verifying all the information before signing anything. Make sure that the rate confirmation has clear terms for the detention pay. If it's not there, chances are the broker doesn't really want to pay for it. Negotiation. This is a sort of the last step when it's too late to do anything else. If the detention time is excessive, try to negotiate with the broker or shipper for additional payment. If they refuse, you may have to consider legal action. Of course, it doesn't look exactly like a scam. It might be a work policy, but it doesn't mean it's not. If you are promised to be paid but were not paid at all, you need to talk to a manager and negotiate a solution. If they are not willing to shell out, you will blacklist their company and leave negative comments. It won't get you paid, but it could help other truckers out there. In this real-life scenario, a hard-working carrier finds themselves caught in the frustration of broker detention time scams. Arriving promptly to the shipper's location well within the scheduled appointment time, they had relied on the broker's assurance that any detention time would be covered. As the carrier potentially waits for the hours, their concerns about potential time and financial losses grow. Seeking reassurance, they contact the broker, who continues to promise that everything will be taken care of. Upon completing the delivery, the carrier submits the necessary documentation, including the bill of lading, which indicates their timely arrival to the appointment. However, the broker delivers a shocking response. Unfortunately, the customer won't pay for any waiting time. There is nothing we can do about it. The driver is stunned. They know they were on time, but the broker points out that the BOL shows a 30-second discrepancy, marking them as late for the appointment. It appears the broker is using the tiniest detail to deny the detention payment that had previously promised. As a result, the carrier is left without any compensation for the detention and faces a significant loss of $250. The broker's lack of commitment has cost them both valuable time and money. We are not saying all the brokers are bad, but some are masters of false promises. Watch out for their shady tactics, including their impossible-to-keep promises and complete lack of transparency. Make sure you double-check all the load details, do your homework through research, and take your time. It's not the time to wait and hope for the best. Speak up and ask questions. You deserve the people you work with to be honest with you. No compromises. And this is especially important if you are looking for loads on your own. If you are using a dispatch service, you better make sure they handle all of those things, because they'll be the ones responsible for verifying all this crucial information. You don't want any slip-ups on their end that could cost you time and money. So keep a close eye on their performance and make sure they've got your back and it comes to getting things right. Let's talk about carriers' fake rate confirmations. Yes, you heard it right, there are some shady tactics there that could leave us all high and dry. But worry not, because we are here to equip you with the knowledge and strategies to navigate these issues with confidence and emerge victorious. So, let's expose these scamming practices and learn how to outsmart them. Let me tell you some really concerning stories about big companies that play dirty tricks on lease drivers or owner-operators. They have this snacky tactic where they sell loads to themselves in order to manipulate rates. And you won't believe how they get away with it. They create different companies that basically collaborate with each other. It does look like an illegal practice of double brokerage, but it's just because it is. This is how it works. A big company receives a load worth $2,000 and sells it to their own daughter company only for $1,000. Now the lease driver who transfers that load gets a percentage of $1,000, the manipulated scam rate, not the full rate. You can deal with the situation by asking for all the documents and contracts that have anything to do with your case. Make sure they are legit and they decide on your following actions to settle or contest the demand for payment. But hold on, it gets shadier. Many carriers promise to pay lease-to-own or owner-operators a substantial percentage of the gross amount, let's say 75 to 80% or even 90. They even claim that they'll show you the rate con of the booked loads so you can see the rate for yourself. Sounds fair, right? Well, not quite. The carriers can easily tamper with the rate con by using programs like Photoshop or other graphic editors. They edit the gross amount to whatever they want and then they send the lease operator a doctored rate con. It's confusing, but unfortunately, this isn't just a one-time thing. Drivers usually discover the truth when they later call the broker's general line and ask for a copy of the rate confirmation directly. You can even ask the carrier to send you the factoring invoice. It's not top secret and has no confidential information whatsoever. So if they refuse to send you one, there is a chance you have a case of malicious fraud on your hands. Now, if you ask me, it seems downright illegal. How they can put in writing that the lease-to-owner or owner-operators will receive a certain percentage of the gross amount when that gross amount has been manipulated in one way or another. It's a clear case of deception and dishonesty. Sure, this is all bad and ugly, but what can we do lease-to-own or owner-operators if we get an issue like this in our hands. Let's remember the research, communicate, document, and negotiate approach we were talking about in the previous unit. Check, double-check, and triple-check if you need to. Is the easiest and the least expensive way to stay out of trouble. Call your freight broker's general line to confirm the rate on the rate con is accurate and in line with agreed upon terms. Usually you can find the number of the general line in the rate con or Google. Let's examine a case to illustrate the detrimental effect of the false rate confirmations on the earnings of drivers who work on a percentage of gross pay basis whenever they are owner-operators or lease-to-own drivers. It's so important to understand that the losses may not be limited to just $50 per month. They could add up to $500 or more on a weekly basis, and you may not even realize it. Here is the breakdown of the loads completed by a driver over the course of a week. All the payments are based on the original agreements, with totally weekly expenses amounting to $4,484, including fixed and variable costs. The driver's earnings are $2,916. Now let's look at the scenario when the company reduces the rates by $150 to $200 for each rate confirmation. Considering the adjusted rates, there is a reduction of $550. By subtracting the $550 from your previous earnings, the resulting profit becomes $2,366. This represents a commendable weekly earning for the driver. However, stop and think. Would you willingly accept to decrease at $2,000 each month? Why let someone take you for a ride? As owner-operators, we are the masters of our own destiny. By being prepared, documenting agreements, and encouraging open communication, we can overcome these challenges. To protect yourself from these scams, it is so important to verify all the information provided by the brokers and thoroughly research new business partners before entering into an agreement with them. It is also a good idea to work with reputable brokers and to report any suspicious activity to the appropriate authorities. While most carriers are honest and upfront about their costs, there are a few out there who might try to take you for a ride. Get ready, because we are about to expose some misleading statements that carriers sometimes make when the payment date comes. First of all, let's talk about the infamous fuel surcharge. Sounds like a good thing, right? Well, sometimes carriers use this term to make it seem like they are passing on the exact cost of fuel to you. Here is the catch: they might not be telling you the whole truth. Some carriers conveniently forget to mention that the fuel surcharge doesn't always reflect the actual fuel prices. I mean, do all owner-operators follow the price trends and keep their receipts from gas stations they bought the gas from? Will they notice the $100 or $200 added up to their total? Exactly. It's much easier to keep track of all your gas expenses and save all your gas receipts to prove your case than it is to blindly believe whenever the numbers the carrier sends your way. Another misleading statement you might come across is when the carriers claim to have discounted fuel prices. How that could be wrong? What they might not be telling you is that these discounts are often tied to specific fuel stations. I have to say that unfortunately, misleading fuel expense claims are about the only ones that we can verify, unlike insurance, tolls, ELD, and so on. Just make sure to keep an eye on all total expenses. If you usually spend a maximum of $4,000 per week, it's normal to see similar numbers in your statement. However, if the expenses are higher, it's a good idea to review where the extra money is going. So how can you protect yourself from these misleading statements? Stay informed, ask questions, and read the fine print. Be aware of any hidden fees or extra costs that might be hidden behind these low fuel cost claims. Take the time to compare different carriers and their fuel policies or full statement policies, making sure you understand the full picture before making a decision. From the experience of many companies, in order to show the driver everything correctly, in addition to the driver statement, they also send a fuel report or toll reports that clearly shows the location and how much was spent, like which route has a discount and how much fuel cost at certain gas station. But how many additional deductions are included in those statements that companies provide? Typically, there are numerous factors to consider, such as insurance, ELD costs, IFTA expenses, deposits, and other areas especially pertinent to owner-operators. Each of these figures can potentially be subject to alternation by the company. Yet, it would be wise to allow worry to determine which company you choose to work with. It's crucial to seek even a minor level of approval, as diligent assessments of the details is essential. For instance, if you agree to a weekly insurance fee of $600 without careful consideration, you might find yourself in a position where you have little room for grievances against the company. Conduct a thorough analysis of prevailing prices, familiarize yourself with the current industry standards, and engage in negotiating with the owner to reach a mutual beneficial agreement. In conclusion, there are several key takeaways that drivers should be mindful of based on the insights provided. Be cautious of carriers making overly attractive promises about fuel expenses. Not all claims may be accurate. Don't take fuel surcharge at face value. It might not always reflect actual fuel costs. It's wiser to track gas expenses and retain receipts to ensure accuracy. Take advantage of available resources like fuel or toll reports to verify expenses. Consider the bigger financial picture, including other deductions. Compare carriers and negotiate transparent agreements that align with your financial interests. So what exactly is an own-to-lease contract? It's a tempting offer that promises you the opportunity to become an independent contractor while leasing a truck from a carrier. Technically, it's a good thing, but in real life, it's not so much because things are not always what they seem. One of the tricks carriers play is presenting these contracts as a gateway of freedom and financial success. They will dazzle you with tales of being your own boss, setting your own schedule, and raking in the cash. But be aware of a web of hidden costs and manipulative tactics. Let's discuss the financial aspect. While carriers might advertise attractive earnings, the moment you commit, you are faced with a harsh reality. You'll quickly come to understand that a notable amount of your earnings is consumed by substantial lease payments, maintenance expenses, insurance, and unexpected fees. But wait, numbers talk better than words. So let's see what we've got. We have total fuel costs for a week is about $2,000 or more if you traveled 3,500 miles. Then we have tolls about 100, maintenance about 300, provisions another 50, taxes, insurance, licenses and permits, and so on. And you must pay your weekly lease payment. If it's high enough, you could be left with $100 and hope you have it to lease off your truck. But all these scammy carriers are really interested in keeping their truck in their company. It's not fair, but business is business. Another thing to look is the dispatch clause in your contract. Imagine if you can't work well with the dispatcher you're assigned to, and there is no way for you to hire your own dispatcher, even if you're willing to pay them out of your pocket. This could be the end of your trucking business. Review your contract for questionable elements such as mandatory company dispatch requirements and hand over to address any dispatch-related concerns through negotiation. So, how can you protect yourself from falling into your own lease trap? Educate yourself about the true costs of leasing a truck, read the fine print, and seek legal advice if needed. Based on the collective experiences of numerous drivers, lease-to-own agreements have been a widely recognized success for many. People acquire their trucks as per the agreed-upon terms. A lot of depends on the company's reputation and track record. Similarly, we've seen drivers turn into a lease-to-own arrangements because they couldn't afford the initial down payment and had limited credit. As a result, they found themselves repeatedly tied to one company in order to protect their accumulated investment in lease payments over time. Let me explain this with a few driver scenarios. The driver signed a 5-lease agreement contract with a monthly payment of $4,360. The owner paid a $40,000 deposit to help the driver secure the truck. The driver immediately covered the $10,000 of this deposit to get a smaller monthly payment. The contract specified a weekly payment of $1,000 for the first 3 years, followed by a $600 for the remaining 2 years. Working diligently, the driver's strategy has to build cash reserves and accelerate lease payments, especially considering the early termination option in the contract with 2 years. A second example shows a scenario where the driver overlooked a critical detail in the contract. Even if the contract was closed in less than 5 years, the driver doesn't become the owner of the truck until the end of those 5 years, a clause explicitly mentioned in the contract. By using this tactic, the owner is trying to associate the driver with the company as long as the driver contributes income to the company. As a rule of thumb, a lease-to-own agreement provides advantages for the drivers who lack the financial means to purchase a truck through financial or outright cash. However, for those with good credit, the means for an initial down payment or sufficient funds to buy a well-maintained used truck, pursuing the path of becoming an owner-operator with full autonomy is recommended. Opting for ownership offers the freedom to select the company of your choice rather than being tied to a specific company. Lease-to-own contracts can be a dream come true, but they can quickly turn into a nightmare if the terms don't match reality. Watch out for hidden fees, vague ownership rights, and unrealistic buyout options. Protect yourself by consulting legal experts, conducted through due diligence, and seeking references from current or former lease-to-own operators. It's not just brokers and carriers that can mislead you. Other suspicious characters can also play this shady game. A lot of scammers and fraudsters are out to get a bite of your pie, but today we'll talk about repair shops and things they may do to bleed you dry. I want to talk about this kind of scam in particular because recently it unfortunately became more common, the advance fee scam. This is when scammers acting like mechanics from a repair shop just to pocket the advance for the vehicle repair they agreed to make and just disappear, or are doing their job too slowly that you need to wait too long to get back your truck, losing even more. The most obvious remedy in this situation is to be aware of scams targeting owner-operators and take steps to verify the identity of the new business partners and carefully review all contracts and papers. Scammers also use their repair shop screen to get your money by making calls and requesting payment for a service they provided. They use vehicle and driver information they already had, so it looks like kinda legit. They may even threaten to withhold the load from the driver until the payment is through. Basically, it's insurance fraud. I'd like to share a recent case I came across while working with Company X. One of our drivers noticed a problem with their truck that needed immediate attention. They found a repair shop and asked the owner for an upfront payment of $4,000 to cover the expected repair costs. The shop had initially mentioned that it would cost up to $10,000. The plan was straightforward. The driver would leave the truck at the shop, wait for about a week for the repairs to be done. The driver paid the money upfront, but after a week had passed, there were no repairs done. The driver was stressed and confused, and they couldn't work during that time. They eventually had to go to another repair shop, and getting back the original $4,000 back was quite a challenge and required legal action. Unfortunately, there have been cases where the drivers have sent money in advance, only to find out later that the repair shop or truck service they paid for doesn't even exist at the provided address, resulting in them losing money. To avoid such situation, there are some suggestions. Verify the caller. If someone calls claiming to be from a repair shop or towing company, ask for their name and the name of their company. Then look up the company online to make sure it is legitimate. Be careful about paying money upfront, especially if you are not familiar with the repair shop. Before choosing a truck service, do some research. Look at reviews and feedbacks from other people online, such as Google, to get an idea of how reliable and trustworthy the shop is. Be wary of unsolicited offers. If someone approaches you offering repair services, be cautious and do your research before agreeing to anything. Talk to experienced professionals who deal with the truck repairs regularly and know the market well. Their advice can really help you make smart decisions about repair shops and services. Repair shops or service providers might try to scam you, and we're here to help you avoid falling into their trap. Be wary of upfront payment demands, broken promises, or shoddy workmanship. Protect yourself by researching reputable service providers, obtaining written estimates, and seeking recommendations from trusted sources. In this lesson, we talked about a few shady practices that owner-operators fall victims to. Detention pay issues, fake rate cons, blown up fuel expenses, cracks in the lease-to-own contracts through which drivers' hope and dreams may slip. And finally, we talked about repair shop scams that can cost you a hefty sum of money. Armed with valuable knowledge, you can now protect your hard-earned money as an owner-operator. Stay informed, research thoroughly, communicate openly, and document everything. Demand transparency and ask questions. Don't fall for misleading statements or manipulative tactics. Safe travels and best of luck in your future as an owner-operator.